Hi, my name is Noel Davis with World Composting, and today we're going to do an update on our fabric grow bag and how that's doing as a worm bin. Now, it's been 8 days since I started this system, and remember, I started it by adding a bunch of cardboard on the bottom, if you go look at my first video, and then I added worms from a bin that had already been working, and it's just a whole bunch of worms from the system. These are African night crawlers. These are one of the more prolific worms as far as breeding, especially when it gets warm out, and I'm really hoping to see the system explode. Now, unfortunately, I am in short sleeves, but it is actually really cold outside. We had a frost warning last night. I wasn't really expecting that. Hopefully these worms survived okay with that type of cold weather coming in. I do think that it was a little bit warmer. They're all way off the floor on this counter, and the bag system itself is also a fabric bag system. It's not going to absorb that cold air from the room, kind of like a plastic tote might act as a barrier. So this is going to do the same thing. So with that, let's take a look, see how the system is doing, add some food, add some bedding, and see how these worms are doing in the system. So we're going to go ahead and dig around and find out. All right, here is our system. So we're going to go ahead and take off this plastic cover, which has a lot of moisture on it, which is good to see. I was really worried about this drying out a little bit. Hopefully you can see that moisture. It's sort of dripping off here. And I knew that the outsides would dry out, but I figured the inside would stay pretty moist. Just trying to find a place to put this cover. Putting it off to the side here. With that, I have a glove. It looks like we have a little bit of mold growing in there, or right down here, if you can see this white tuft right there. It looks like there's a little bit of mold from stuff that was by the surface. There was a worm on top here that I did see, but this is nice and moist. And look at this. You can see this. These are the pieces of charcoal that I added, by the way. So these are going to break down hopefully in here a little bit. They crunch apart pretty easily. When I put this through a grinder or anything, it's going to just grind that apart. And it looks like there's maybe some food left in here, but it looks like they're really sort of working through that. These worms are prolific eaters. By the way, I forgot to show here. I'm just going to pick this up and move this real quick. Hold on, I don't want to mess up my glove here. I'm going to pick this up and move this real quick. It is wet underneath here, so you can see the reflection of the water. So it's doing its job as far as keeping moisture in the center section. I knew that the sides would dry out perfectly fine in this system. 100% expected. Here's a worm right here, nice big one. You can see these worms are pretty big. They're prolific breeders. It's a little chilly in here, unfortunately. I don't have my temperature gauge down here, but it's a little bit chilly. So we're just going to go ahead and dig this up, kind of move this around a little bit. And I think we're going to have to try to get in maybe some more stuff that's going to heat up a little bit more, to deal with the help of these worms. So you can see right here, the food that I added, which was from my food cycler, is starting to break down a little bit. They are eating that. It's a good food source, I find, for worms because it's dried out. And at the same time, you can add moisture to it. It starts to really heat up normally. But I think we're just going to have to kind of mix this around, get a little bit of air in here, and we're going to have to add some water because it's kind of drying out. But what we're going to do is we're going to add a big thing of food here, which is I have some majorly expired coffee that I'm going to add to this here. So give me just a second here. I'm just going to rip this open here and just pour some of this coffee in here. These were, I didn't realize that these were, not only were they expired, but they were also punctured at some point, and we were saving these for camping. These are pour-over coffee containers here, but just going to add them in here. Coffee, I have found, has a lot of nitrogen in it, and it does tend to heat up. So I figured that this would be perfect in here, along with some more of our food cycler output. And hopefully this will make a good feeding for these worms. So, all right, hold on here. We add that. We are going to need to add some water, as I said earlier. I don't think we need any cardboard. We got quite a bit of cardboard in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and mix this in a little bit. Again, we are going to add water to moisten this down. And as I said, it's been cold. That means it's also been dry. My house tends to dry out a little bit when it gets cold. And it's, the humidity went from being around 40% to around 20% over a day and a half, which was kind of surprising for everybody. Not just the worms, but also everyone in my house. So I'm going to go ahead and add in a couple big dollops of water in here. You need to rinse off my glove too. One more, I think, before we put in some of the Vitamix stuff. And again, it's okay if it leaks out of here. because of the fact that it's in this plastic tote that you see all around here, perfectly fine that it leaks out. So I'm going to go ahead and add, I'm not going to add too much this time, but I am going to add some of the Vitamix stuff. But before we add that, I'm going to do something here. I'm going to make a big hole in the center, which, as you can tell, it's very wet down here in the center, which is fine. We're going to pour that in the center like that. And the reason why I'm doing that is I really want to, you saw the white little bit of white mold. This stuff grows mold like crazy, I have found, in my other system. So I really wanted to make sure that it was covered up well, so that way we don't get that mold. This is a little bit muddy right now, this system. But that's quite all right. It'll dry back out. We're going to add in a little bit more water. I'm also going to rinse off my gloves here. This is, as I said, kind of a quick update. We're just adding a little bit more food. I just wanted to check on this system, make sure it wasn't drying out. The entire center section was nice and moist, which is what I thought it would be with that cover on, which I do need to grab. It just fell down there. So we're going to put this cover back on, and this will be good to go to sit for a little bit longer. Now, eventually, I'm going to add some food to this, but I don't want to add any food when it's this cold. Unfortunately, I freeze all my food, and I usually add frozen food. I really don't want to do that. When the system's this cold with these worms, you really need to have warm food, or you need to be able to have it warm up pretty quickly because the air is warm. My basement being in the 60-degree area, it's probably 65 degrees down here. It just needs to warm up into that 70 degrees, and then I can add cold food to this as well. So with that, that's our update. Again, we are 8 days in. They started to really start consuming that food. We can see that the worms are definitely moving around. And let's just pick this up. Let's see if we have water running out. It's definitely wet in the bottom. I'm not seeing any water running out, but that's okay. We're just going to kind of keep this on top. You have air moving in through the side so the worms can still breathe and it can still dry out, but that center section is going to remain nice and moist for those worms to make sure that they can always get somewhere where there's water to be able to breathe and re-moisten their skin. So with that, if you have any questions, please let me know. Again, these are BN Link grow bags. They sent me these. And we're going to be running this experiment for quite a while, and then we'll see about maybe growing some stuff in them as well. I really wanted to try potatoes. I just need to order some online, or maybe try some from the store, and we can try that out. But we'll, right now, starting off with this worm bag right here, and we're going to see how this does as a worm container. Thank you for watching, and again, if you have any questions, please leave them down below.